to wear a dress, wear a dress. If you want a suit, wear a suit. If you want to wear nothing, Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to Distant Conversations, a 20-something podcast hosted by myself, Ben, who is 27 this year, and...
I'm Gabs. I'm 22. I am currently in Lithuania, but I usually live in London. So yeah, hi. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the family.
Welcome to the family. And throughout the entire course of our podcast, we want to talk about anything and everything related to this very interesting, tumultuous journey called life. We will talk about culture, friendship, politics, entertainment, sex, relationships, anything under the sun.
All the things.
All the things, okay? And we want
you
you to engage in the conversation along with us.
Yes, please. We need friends.
We do need friends. And speaking of friends, how you can be our friend is if you were to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching this, and on Spotify and any other podcast platform if you're listening to us when you're on the go or whatever you're doing right now.
And that was our shameless plug before we even said anything.
Indeed, absolutely. So we want to talk about this on being on the subject, this whole idea about being 20-something, right? Because I think that the 20-something phase is very interesting. And during the final course of our university education, before we graduated from Goldsmiths University of London, where the two of us met about 3 years ago, I did an assignment. Okay, it is not a sugar baby assignment. I know what you're gonna say, Gabs, but it's not that one. It's a different one. And basically, I stumbled upon a New York Times Magazine article that basically defines 20-something as the transition to adulthood, okay, with 5 main milestones, which involves, number 1, completing school, number 2, leaving home, number 3, becoming financially independent, number 4, marrying, and number 5, having a child. Now, with that being said, that might not be the most updated.
Those last few points rubbed me the wrong way.
It was written in 2010. And I think that it's also quite interesting because within the 20-something time line or that phase, which stretches from 20 to 29, it is a significant amount of time that elapses. It's about a good 10 years, right? And even though the two of us are in our 20-something life phase at this point in time, we are in two quite different ends of the spectrum. Approaching 30 and you kind of just stepping into the stage.
I'm young and beautiful, and you're old and tired.
And raggedy as hell. That's what I am. So I just wanted to ask you, what does it mean? Because you just entered into it, right? How is it different from, let's say, when you were 18 or when you were in your teen years?
I mean, I don't really know. I don't feel like that much has changed. I feel a lot changed for me when I moved out of home and, became more independent. But I don't think that had to do a lot with my age, but it just simply, I wasn't living with my parents anymore. And so I had to fend for myself a lot more. But so, I don't know. I don't think age is a very good indicator of whether you're grown up or not. And if you ever had a relationship with a 20-something guy, that's true. Oh please, they are very immature.
What?
That's true.
No, I think it's very interesting that you brought the point up about growing up, because I did once I had a conversation with my previous youth pastor. when I was still going
Oh,
to church
okay.
a lot. That when he actually pointed out and said that, do people actually ever grow up? Because who sets that boundary, that line? That says, okay, once you reach this particular point, you are now grown up.
I guess, but like there is a certain point when you go from like people calling you like a girl to calling you a woman, or people calling you a boy to calling you a man. And that doesn't necessarily coincide with you turning 18. I think probably it has most to do with like financial independence, maybe. I
Hmm.
don't know. But yeah, but I feel like, philosophically, maybe, oh, we keep growing till we die. But also, like, there is a certain transition point, I feel, into adulthood.
Yeah, and I think that transition point, at least for me, kind of reaching into the tail end of this 20-something phase right now, it does happen a lot once you become financially independent, because
Right.
I feel that the major shift for me happened when I was 25. So when I was 25, I just moved to London. So that
Mm,
means it coincided very, very nicely with the leaving home and starting a new phase in your life
right.
period, right? And I felt that now looking back, my 27-year-old self versus my 17-year-old self was very, very different, And even looking back, my 21-year-old self was very different from my 17-year-old self. And I think because that was when I realized that I needed to grow up in the sense of um, taking on more responsibility for my life. And what do I
Right.
mean by that is I feel that now I need to look after my parents,
Right.
financially, physically. I need to look after my grandparents, I need to start paying for stuff, rather than
Mm.
just staying home and just
Yeah.
leeching off without paying rent and stuff like that.
I think that's a good point that you're making. I feel like a lot of entering adulthood is actually realizing that you have to like give instead of take.
Yeah.
Um, because when you're a teen and when you're quite young, I think what happens is you're always taking from people. You're
Yes.
learning in school, you're taking money from your parents, everyone's teaching you, everyone's giving you stuff.
Mhm.
But when you enter adulthood, I think it comes with that realization of like, now I need to give. And like uh things like, I feel like such simple things that I never thought about. For example, when I was 15, like treating my friends to a dinner never crossed my mind when I
Yeah.
was when I was 15. But I'm like, well, yeah, like, I appreciate this. Like, why don't I treat them to dinner? That's a nice thing to do. Um, so yeah, I think there might be, something with that.
Also, as a disclaimer, Gabs has never bought me dinner.
I have. Excuse me. Malaysian deli. I bought you dinner several times.
You did buy me dinner at the Malaysian deli, which we would like to shout out since we are talking about the Malaysian deli that we
Shout
miss
out
you
for the
guys.
deli
Yeah, Malaysian deli, we miss you, and we
in
hope that we'll see
Crofton
you real,
Park.
real soon.
Go visit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also I think that when we transition into this phase, which naturally happens during this period of time, I
Yeah.
think maybe I know it really hit me like a ton of bricks once I officially graduated university and came back to Singapore. That there is no longer any cushion in terms of, or there shouldn't be any cushion for you unless you really need to. And I'm not sure if you feel it yet, because I feel like right now I really don't want to, if I can, we just kind of get out there and move out and get a job and, really
Right.
just be financially independent in my, financially, but also physically and emotionally and mentally,
Yeah.
in moving into this new phase,
I feel like, yeah, I was like, for most of my life, yeah, like I was very comfortable with like, taking money from my parents and like living with them because I was like, yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be. But I feel like the moment I started living alone, I started like feeling like ashamed for if I have to ask my parents for money. And that was like a very weird shift for me. But yeah, but it was yeah, somehow it becomes uncomfortable, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And I think that if it doesn't feel uncomfortable, that's when it's a bit scary, I feel. Because that means that we are too fixated and planted and rooted into into this kind of safety bubble. And that really affects you as a functioning member of society. I mean, I'm not sure what that term
Yeah.
actually means, but I feel that it does affect you in terms of your interactions with other people and being self-sufficient and being independent, and yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's why the first lockdown was quite difficult for me because
Mhm.
for the first lockdown, I decided to come back to live with my parents. And I just like suddenly, I just felt like I never left. Suddenly, I just felt like I was 16 again,
Yeah.
frolicking. Um,
Frolicking.
okay, there wasn't any frolicking. I was in the house. What I'm trying to say is that, chores and like you're back in your old bedroom and
And
it's
your
like,
mom coming in and saying, Gabs, can you please clean your room?
well, I'm very clean, but it's like, you didn't unload the dishwasher. And I'm like,
But have your parents ever spoken to you about how it was for them when they were in this phase? Like, when they first met, when they were getting a new job, have they ever kind of shared with you their experience?
no.
Oh,
Um, yeah, I don't think I've ever talked with my parents about that. But I don't know. I know that like it was quite different for my dad because he was in the army
yeah.
for like this period of his life. So I think it's like a very different experience for him. And I feel like my mom has always been like very grown up from like a very early age. I feel like, even in the pictures where she's like 16, she's looking like a strict teacher. Like she's very high strung, I feel.
Your discipline mistress.
Yeah, so I don't know if their example would be the best example.
Speaking of strict mistress, Gabrielle with the pearls today, very disciplined
Ooh.
mistress. By the way,
Okay,
show them
okay.
pearls.
No, but this is so when we were talking about this podcast, we were talking about Harry Styles, right? So I decided, ooh, let me do a little homage, because now he's always wearing like the pearls with the colorful sweaters. Yeah, so but I feel like they look better on him. They look
No.
better.
Well, we digress. We digress. But
We
shout out to Harry
digress.
Styles. We'll get back to him at some point.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
very, very sure. But I think it's very interesting because my parents always shared with me about how they were and during their younger days. And I think that trickled down to how I thought my 20-something years should be spent.
Wait,
Right?
what were your parents like?
Yeah, so my mom and my dad came from quite different backgrounds. So my dad he was really, really poor. And ever
Mm,
since he was a child, he had to go out. He would tie vegetables and sell vegetables in the market. He would get bruises and cuts on his fingers from tying crabs just to earn money to support the family.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that was his upbringing. And he didn't graduate with, I mean, the highest qualification that he got was an O level, which I guess is like a GCSE in the
Okay. Okay.
UK, Europe terms that we're
So
using.
basically high school.
Yeah, basically just high school. Yeah. And that was it. And his priorities then is really just to get a job, you know, and like what that 2010 article was saying was to fulfill those 5 milestones. Leave home, you know, he completed his education, but for him was to find a job, get married, and have a kid. And that was what his primary focus was during the entire 20-something,
Okay.
during his 20-something phase. My mom, on the other hand, came from a different background because she was a bit more, they didn't have to struggle as much. I guess my grandfather had a decent job, you know, but she also just has a high school qualification, but she kind
Okay.
of eased into the 20-something more easily because she could go for dance lessons, she could travel with her
Mm,
girlfriends, you know, and she did all of those things. Whereas whenever my dad traveled, he traveled because he was on a job. You know, he was
okay.
doing something and then he just like, oh, we travel on the side while I'm at a construction site. You know what I mean?
So what do you feel like you've taken on from these? Because it is
So,
quite different.
yeah, it is quite different. So I think for me, when I kind of entered into this phase, they didn't sit me down and said like, okay, look, Ben, you are 21 now, so you are meant to do these things. But I feel
Okay.
like because hearing these things and seeing how my cousins live their lives and their own trajectories as well, I
Right.
just felt that I need to just complete the uni, honestly, complete the uni, get a job ASAP, really go and settle down and have a family and have kids. Honest to goodness, that was how I felt. And I still do to a certain extent at this point in time.
So do you think that like, because you didn't study arts management right
No.
off the bat. So do you think that you going to poly and stuff like that, was that because you had this vision, or did you actually like have this change of interest? Like, what happened?
Yeah, so yeah, which is very interesting you pointed out because the reason why I kind of stuck for the viewers and the listeners, if you don't know, my entire early life trajectory was to go into biomedical sciences. And one of the main reasons why, and I shared this with my parents as well, is because I felt that was the right route for me to go. That would
Okay.
be the one that will help me achieve this decent job with a decent salary that will help me settle down and live a comfortable life. And I didn't dare because I was so afraid to even consider changing my trajectory and especially into something like the arts, which was,
Okay.
I wouldn't say frowned upon, but it still isn't held in high regard as a profession that you know would allow you to give you all these luxuries in life that you might want to
For
have.
sure. I mean, very few parents want their child to go into the arts, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You know, so I think when I made that decision to make that transition, and that happened kind of during my early 20s, actually. Now that
Hmm.
was not easy because that there was a lot of back and forth between
Okay.
myself and my family, and people came and said, "Are you really sure you want to do this? You know, the arts industry is not the best in Singapore." Da, 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 da.
Right.
And to a certain degree, I'm still fighting that battle till today. You know.
Yeah, I feel like, what's really hard when you're young
Mm-hmm.
is that everyone tells you how young and dumb you are. And so when you need to make these like very life-altering decisions, then you start doubting yourself and you're like, well, yeah, I'm young and dumb. What do I know? But on the other hand, it's your life.
Yeah, exactly. But also with that being said, I concur. I understand completely because the phrase that a lot of adults, Singaporean adults, like to use is, "Oh, you will understand once you start working." You know, and once you've
Okay.
started working, the next transition is, oh, you will understand once you have children. It's standard. It's every single family uses that same phrase.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's used for any situation there is. Okay, when you're voting for the very first time. Okay, and you might might swing towards a particular political party, and somebody
Right.
disagrees with you, and you're older, and they would say very candidly, but very seriously, very seriously, oh Ben, you will understand once you start working.
Yeah.
And I'm
Which is,
like,
it's like there's truth to it. There is truth
of
to it, but
course.
also like it is very like demeaning in a way where you're like, listen, I have, you know, a noggin up there, small as it may be. It's there, you know.
Do you think being 20 now in 2020, is any different from being 20 something, let's say during your parents' time or even 10 years ago?
Well, I mean, I think that it's very different compared to my parents, simply because my parents were young in the Soviet Union, you know. Lithuania was in the
That is
Soviet Union,
true.
was a very different time.
Yeah.
Um, so I think, a lot of things were different, and maybe that's why I think I can't relate on a lot of things
Hmm.
to what like my parents' life vision was.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But yeah, I think now in general it's quite different because there's just so much information and you can go anywhere. Like
Oh,
you want to
absolutely.
go and live in Sierra Leone, you can. Like it's fine. You have that choice. And it's crazy. I think very few of our parents thought that I have a choice to go and live anywhere. I
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
choice to go and like do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when my parents were 20 something, like when your parents were 20 something, it was during the Soviet Union phase. When
Yeah.
my parents were 20 something, it was when Singapore just gained independence. So you can just only imagine the turmoil that this country is already going through. And nobody was going to say, oh, yeah, let's take a gap year, let's go and travel the world.
Yeah.
The priorities were so different at that point in time. And I feel that nowadays, because our parents managed to pave that way for us
Mhm.
to give us the freedom to really make choices like, oh, let's study the arts. Let me do a degree like yourself, do a
Yeah.
degree in English, and then, you know what, maybe I'll pivot to law, which is what you're doing now. Ka-ching, ka-ching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I feel that because they've done all of that, we now, I'm trying to rethink and think about what then is our role for the next generation that is coming up.
Okay.
What are we leaving? What path are we leaving for them? For like my nephew, for example, who is like 3 years old. I don't know.
A
You
fucked up
know,
ozone and a world full of greenhouse gases.
because honestly, that's why I think that we're leaving them really just
Right?
problem.
I
We're
mean,
just
it
leaving them
is what it
problem.
is.
Yeah, and all these things now. So, going back to our dear friend Harry Styles, which I hope that you're
Our dear
watching.
friend, of
Our
course.
dear friend Harry Styles, speaking to you directly, is that this morning I stumbled upon a interview. No, not really interview, but yeah, kind of like an interview or like a cover.
It's a cover, Vogue
It's a
cover.
cover. Yeah, a cover of Harry Styles on Vogue. Was it not Vogue? Yeah, and a particular entertainment program was talking about the backlash, but particularly the backlash from one person, and this
Oh
one
God.
person being Candace Owens. So, Gabs, you can share with us a little bit more about Candace Owens.
I mean, I don't really want to like give her publicity because I
You
don't think
should.
she's a very nice person. But basically, she's a journalist, she's an activist, very active on social media. You know, she is American. She's a Trump supporter. She criticizes Black Lives Matter, and she's also, in this instance, criticizes basically Harry Styles taking a picture for Vogue in a dress. And she's saying, we need real men, you know, that, you know, this whole feminizing men thing is a
Needs to go.
Russian and Chinese plot to take over the West, which, like, this is where she lost me. Like, when you start spewing about secret political plots, I'm like, honey, calm down, have some tea. Like, do you want to talk about what's bothering you? Uh, but yeah, I don't think she's a nice lady, and I disagree with her on almost everything that she says. So, yeah, what do you think?
Definitely a fan of Candace Owens right there, ladies and gentlemen. No, I feel like I just don't understand because there's a part of me that's thinking, okay, this woman is not real. Like she's just saying all these things to create drama, to create publicity for herself. But yet there is a part of me that says there is some truth in the sense of like isn't this is real, this is really who she is. Not in what she's saying,
I
but
mean,
this is really
I
who
don't
she is.
doubt that this is who she is because I think, you know, kind of, you know, we had a lot of publicity, especially like when it was nearing the American election day.
Yeah.
Like, there was so much talk from like Trump supporters, and I think that this is like a very, very common view that you know, about 72 million people in
Yeah.
America that voted for Trump have.
Yeah.
So, so you know, I have no doubts that she's a real person and she has many, many followers.
You know, but let's also talk about the fact that no, ain't we as an Asian person, ain't
Listening.
nobody got time to plot to take the Western people down. Okay, why? Who even
I
uses the
mean,
terms?
you are from Singapore, you
I
know.
am.
You don't know what the other nations are planning.
Well, that's true.
Ooh.
But as a Singaporean, I honestly think that we ain't got no time. I don't think about plotting to destroy the West. And who even calls us the West and the East anymore?
Yeah,
Who
I mean,
even
it's
uses
dumb.
terms like that?
Yeah, like when you start making up conspiracy theories about like, you know, Russian interventions and like, I mean, sometimes they have merit, but usually it's just like, calm down. Like, this is what are you even saying?
Yeah,
Uh,
and I feel like, you know, at this point in time, I think that because well, this 2020 itself has been very eventful for many reasons, and I think that a lot of these topics got brought up to the forefront. You know, topics like
yeah.
racism, topics like gender equality, topics like politics. You know, all kind of took center stage because of the events that took place, right? And the
Yeah.
pandemic kind of just propelled
I
it
feel like, yeah, the
forward.
pot is just boiling over.
It's just really boiling over. But I really don't understand, and I've always struggled with it personally in terms of when she said a manly man, you know, a manly man, and what that actually means and where that came from, you know, because I think that growing up as a man, as what
Mhm.
society calls people like myself, you know, I was taught from a very young age certain things like, okay, Ben, you cannot cry in public. You cannot show emotion. Okay, because if you show emotion, that is girly. That's
Okay.
what sometimes my parents would tell me, or teachers would say these things to me. You know, oh, you are meant to be the main breadwinner, so you have to earn a certain amount of money to
Right, right.
to support your family. You know, and you have to be the main guy that supports it. You know, and I
Yeah.
sort of just accepted it because I didn't know better. I just thought, okay, you know, it's probably true. But as I grew older and kind of elapsing into this 20 something phase, I began to question, what does it really mean to be a man? You
Yeah.
know,
I think, yeah,
or a woman.
a lot of people talk about this in terms of women, you know, that like um but I think that there is like a huge problem with like men having to be manly as well. And like honestly, if there's one thing I could take down in this world, it would be toxic masculinity.
Oh,
I
yes.
just I just think it's so dumb and so unhealthy, and like it's insane. It's like I can't wrap my head around it. But it's, you know, let a boy cry, you know? Like he has emotions, because if you don't let boys cry, then they grow up emotionally constipated men who can't like
Or just in
it's
general,
true.
constipated men, or just men that are constipated, really.
Right? Who
Yeah.
can't like express their feelings when they're feeling happy or in love, or like who don't know how to process grief, and that doesn't really and that is just like not good for the society. It's not good for the person. It's, you know, it's not really good for anyone.
Yeah.
um,
And so, okay, so what do you think, for example? So, okay, again, I think what we're trying to say is that a lot of these concepts or
mm,
thoughts are being passed down to us from a very, very young age, because it is a societal creation. It is created by society. It became a societal norm
right.
through the ages, right? So going back to that, so he wore a dress, Harry Styles wore a dress, a gorgeous dress. I love that dress. I would wear that dress, for example. Now, as a woman, um, in which society deems that only women should wear dresses, what
Right.
do you feel when you saw that cover?
I mean, I was into it. I was like, he's looking good.
Like
um
sexually?
I, why do you have to make everything gross?
What?
But okay, but I kind of get what you're like, what you're getting at in terms of like, it doesn't make me think that Harry Styles is any less of a man
Hmm.
because he took a picture in a dress and it wasn't a joke, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, because yeah, I think, you know, I think that's fine. I think like it's a badass picture. He's looking super good. He is super talented. He's you know, all of his style choices, I think right now are really like
On
spot
point.
on point.
They're just on
Um,
point.
just whew, like taking tips. But yeah, but at the same time, I think like he still has that like very attractive guy from that appeal that he had when he was in One Direction. So yeah, so I don't like, yeah, what I'm saying is still a guy, even greater now that he wore a dress, because I'm like, yes, I support what you stand for, and I don't want to make this political because you're just looking badass, but also like a good political stance.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. So do you think that really is so what then is or should there even be a definition of what a man should be or what a woman should be? Do you think there is a definition for it, or we don't need it? Do you think it's just like a biological thing? Because at this point in time, my point of view is being a man or woman is really a biological thing. Honest to goodness.
Oh,
In
which is,
in
I
a
think,
weird way.
which is very problematic again, because
Yeah,
I think then there's a whole transgender community.
that's right.
And yeah, I think you sh really, like, yeah, just, because, you know, I do believe that trans women are women,
Yeah.
trans men are men.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, so, you know, saying that like femininity or masculinity is biological is a bit tricky,
But
I think.
but there's also so this is back to this. We're going very academic at this point in time.
Ooh.
But I remember I was so in my first year we did a module called Culture and Society, and we had a couple of lessons about this particular topic, right? And
Okay.
what the terms femininity and masculinity versus man and woman, and what that actually means. So I
Okay.
think that it is not like, oh, men equals masculinity, women equals femininity, or even men equals femininity, or
I
women
mean,
equals
it's like
masculinity.
that
Yeah.
whole Judith Butler gender performativity
Hi,
theory of
Judith.
just basically, yeah, we're performing gender. Like there's nothing inherently
There we go.
feminine or masculine about us. We're
Yeah,
performing gender because that's how we were raised, and that's what we're
correct.
seeing in
Correct.
the environment around us.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
So,
um,
so the bottom line is just be who you are. Just be
just
who you
do
want to
you,
be. Just do you. If you want to wear a dress, wear a dress. If you want a suit, wear a suit. If you want to wear nothing, mm, go ahead. But
Send us a
preferably
picture.
send us a picture if you're doing that. We would
Not to
like
be
to see
creepy.
it. Just saying.
Yeah.
Politics really took a forefront in the 20-something youth community, at least here back home, because we had a general election earlier this year, and a lot of young people spoke up and spoke out.
Okay,
Whether it's
okay.
for the government, against the government, for the opposition, against the opposition.
Hmm.
I saw a lot of my friends really voting for the very first time, because I voted for the very first time. So I was more engaged in the subject
Oh,
matter
wait,
than
for the
before.
first time.
Yeah, for the very first time. So the first time when I got to vote, I was not in the country.
Okay.
I was on holiday with my
Do you
family.
have to be in the country?
We can go to the embassy to
Right,
vote, but
right.
because we were only on holiday for like 5 days, so I think that you have to be like living abroad for an
Okay,
extended period of
got
time
it,
to make it
got it.
count. Yeah, and yeah, so I missed that, and then this was the very first general election that I could participate in, and I was so engaged in it, because I think that politics is very important lah. I mean, that's the bottom line of it. I don't
Right.
understand why people can think that it's not. It's a lot to take in, and it can get you very angry and very, very fired up. But
Yeah,
it affects you. It's your life, so you have to be engaged in it somehow. You
yeah.
know,
It was very interesting because like that new Obama interview came out
our
recently.
dear friend. Wait, our dear friend Barack Obama.
Our dear friend, yeah.
Yeah.
But he was basically saying how when he became president, he sort of had to come to terms that like holding an office is not like a fast train to any sort of policy changes that you want to implement, but it's actually like this kind of, I don't remember which vehicle he used, but like this bulldozer that is moving really, really slowly. And like
Yeah.
the work that you do now um, may bear fruit like only 10 years later, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't matter and
Yeah.
that, you should get angry with the system and stop voting or like vote for someone else out of spite, even though you don't believe in them, um,
Mhm.
which I think a lot of people do. Yeah, but so I thought that was very interesting, very scary in a way, because you just I think especially before elections you just feel like there's so many injustices and there's so many things that need changing and modernizing, and then you vote for someone who you believe that's going to change everything and then they don't, and
Yeah.
that's very disappointing.
Yeah, but that's like what you said. I think that everybody wants the government, or in this case, the president, like, for example, in Singapore, the prime minister is the one that we kind of look up to for
Right.
direction and and stuff like that. So that people always want, because we can never satisfy everyone. That is the bottom line, and I think that running a country is probably the toughest. It is, in my opinion, the toughest job there is on the planet. And for a country like the United States, where there's so many people, but it's really not. I read a tweet today that said that the United States should change their name to the divided states. And I was like, damn, this person is like on fire. It is and we see the divide being more and more apparent.
Yeah,
right?
it's funny because it's true.
It's true. And we're not here to kind of shame America or whatnot, because, I mean, of course, maybe one day we can get one of our American friends to come on and share their thoughts and their opinions on how the state of their home is at this point in time. But at least from an outsider's point of view, and that's what President Barack Obama basically said in this CBS Morning interview with our other dear friend, Gail King, that when he entered the office, when he sat down in the Oval Office at the Resolute desk, that this sense of reverence took over him. And he realized that, he is going to work. And he loves the work. And I quote this, he said this, "I love the work, even though the work does not necessarily love me back."
It's sad.
And that really hit home, because I think for the past 4 years, we saw none of that.
Yeah.
We saw none of, in a lot of countries, not just in the United States, near to Singapore, we saw that happen in the Philippines. And the Philippines have been going through, I'm not sure how familiar you are, but they've been going through a very tumultuous political climate for the longest time, since the 1970s. And it has never really stabilized, and it's just going on and on and on.
I mean, it's insane, because even with Europe, right, what's happening in Belarus now is this absolute horrible, cruel dictatorship in the middle of Europe, and nobody can sort of do anything apart saying, yes, I condemn you. And people are getting detained and and killed and put in jail and separated from their families.
Yeah.
And this is happening in the middle of Europe. Like, to me, it's insane.
So how do you, as a young person, as a 20-something-year-old, respond when you see these things? How does that affect you?
Well,
personally?
I feel like the way it affected me is that I started studying law.
There we go.
Because there was this, I feel like I was so happy studying literature. I was so, like, I felt like this is what I'm interested in. This is what I want to do. But then I feel like when you step out of the classroom and you're sort of bombarded with these huge issues that you have no idea of how you're even supposed to take on, you're just really sort of feeling helpless. And I think for me, like, the easiest way to do something was study law, as like, I don't know, that's how my mind worked. But I remember sort of thinking, that literature's too self-indulgent and that I need to do something else. But I think, there's many different ways to respond. How do you respond?
I respond through the work that I do, basically, because I feel that the art in itself is a very transformative agent. And that is why I decided to do it in the first place, because I felt that it changed me, as a person, right? In so many ways, I became more aware of issues that are happening in society, things
Yeah.
that are kind of brushed under the carpet, or voices that are not heard, and that is why I continue to try to achieve that through the work that I do in terms of the theater that I create and produce,
Yeah.
that is one thing.
Have you heard that new Demi Lovato song, Commander in Chief?
No, I have not.
It's so good, like talking about art affecting, because it was like, I think it was about Trump, and it was about the pandemic and the George Floyd protests, but it
Yeah.
was so good. It was like, I'm not American. I have no associations with America, but I was like bawling. I was like,
You
oh,
do
this
have an
song is so
association with America.
emotional.
One of your greatest heroes is American.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Ruth, rest
Ruth
in
Bader
peace.
Ginsburg, ladies and gentlemen. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. May she rest in peace.
May she rest in
May
peace.
she rest in peace.
Uh,
We watched a great film about her by Felicity Jones and Armie Hammer.
not by Felicity
I mean,
Jones.
oh, sorry, featuring. So Felicity Jones played Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and Armie Hammer played her husband. And it's called On the Basis of Sex. And if you've not watched it, I strongly encourage you to go and watch it
Oh
because
my
it's a
God,
great
oh my
film.
God. There was this oh yeah, this great line in that film where she's like, you know, she's saying to a judge, "We're not asking you to change the country. The country's changed with no court's permission. We're only asking you to change the law." And
Wow.
I'm
Look at
like,
that. I just got
yes,
goosebumps.
culture coming in for that legislation, for that outdated legislation. Yes.
But then it's the
Right.
thing, right? So bring this back to the point about the change actually begins now. It begins with people like us,
Yeah. People
because,
like us eating a lot of avocado toast and discussing very important issues.
I mean, I don't eat avocado toast. I think that's a bit below the line for
Oh my
me.
God.
But I like some. No, I'm just kidding. I love avocado. Um, but yeah, but basically, what? So that is also the other thing that's what to say is that as a young person, a young girl person, is that
Sure.
yeah, we really need to do something about it if we're not happy with what we're seeing at this point in time. But at the same time, I think it's very important is that whilst in the midst of trying to implement that change and achieve
Mm,
and chase those changes, to also keep the conversations going. Because I noticed that a lot of times people or young people are quite set on a particular set of views, and there is
right, right.
no back and forth. It's either my way or the highway. It's I'm right, you're wrong. There's very little listening, I
True, but
feel.
I think it's hard with a lot of issues. It's hard because, you know, like how do you how do you have a conversation with someone who's like Black lives don't matter or like white lives matter? Like it's very hard to
Mm,
talk to someone where I'm like, because yeah, in my head I'm immediately like, no, you're wrong. Like you're wrong, you
you
know?
wrong, bitch, you wrong.
Like, or somebody who says, oh yeah, being gay is a choice, and I'm like, you're wrong. Like, so like,
So,
yeah,
so,
how do you
my
talk to
approach to that
people?
is this. My approach is this. Whenever I hear something like this, I always take a step back and I take a breath and I go, okay, why?
Right.
You know,
But I
and because I want them to discuss it with me. And I feel that if I
but
were to go and stoke it and go, okay, you know what, Gabs, you wrong, man, you wrong. Like you shouldn't do that. I feel that will just escalate things if you
but
don't.
I feel like um but it's still like there's very different sources.
Mm, mm, mm,
Um
mm.
that we're basing these things on, because it's like, I don't know, like being gay is a choice, right? I say no, because there's these studies, scientific proof, blah blah blah. This is what people who are gay say. And then they say, no, but you know what? It says so in the Bible, or it says so in the Quran. And then you say, okay, but there's these LGBTQ priests, or the Pope said that like
Yeah.
being gay is okay. And they're no, they're wrong. And that's an impasse, because yeah, no, they're wrong. You're like, whatever is wrong. And I think, like in every conversation that I've had with people, there comes that point of impasse where there's like, no, your evidence is wrong. Like, no, you're wrong. Or like, no, they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And yeah, I still don't know how to move past that, how to like it's very hard to listen
Yeah.
to people, and it's also very, like, I think difficult for them to listen to you, and it's just, I don't know, I struggle with that. I struggle with that a lot.
Yeah, I think the whole thing about the importance of having a conversation is being open to listening and not immediately jumping on a point and assuming that, one side is wrong and one side is right. I think that's how, I mean, in an ideal world, of course, that would be great.
But then I'm thinking, like, uh, if someone's saying, oh, actually, Black lives don't matter, and then I'm like, oh, tell me more, then am I like, like encouraging? Like, am I?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just literally, I think for me, how I see that is you're just trying to get their point of view, It's just like, so there was a point in whereby I really didn't really get the hashtag. So there were a lot of hashtags being thrown around during the Black Lives Matter movement that came earlier this year. So the thing that kind of sparked my my curiosity was because my dear friend Dolly Parton said in a Billboard magazine interview that she was quoted saying along the lines of, why somebody asked her, Dolly, do you support Black Lives Matter? And she said, of course I would. Why would I just think that only my sorry white ass matters? Because all lives matter to me. Now, with that being said, that caused a lot of backlash because people were saying, oh, Dolly is supporting all lives matter.
But that's not what she said.
Yeah. So I was very confused. Because I was like, because to me it's, I agree. Yeah, they're all, I mean, to me, all lives are precious. Nobody should die. Innocent lives should not be lost, basically, right? So I went around and I went to ask different people who are activists, people who study the subject matter, and go, okay, can you please just share with me more about why, there is this current backlash, and how should I approach it? Because I want to understand, this, then they explained to me that, oh, okay, so it's not really, so they're saying that people are not hating on all lives matter, but it's just that at that point in time, the hashtag all lives matter was used to attack back on the Black Lives Matter hashtag. Yeah. So that is why people are saying don't use the all lives matter, because the connotation of that is you are actually fighting against Black Lives Matter, which was the main focus at that point in time. Then I got a deeper understanding. I was like, oh, I see. So now I understand why I need to be more careful when I use these terms, for example. But that took a while. That took me like about a month asking like different people about it,
Yeah. which is again a bit. I think it's really hard, especially when you have like a confrontation
Oh,
one to
definitely.
one with someone. Where like
Oh, yes, yes.
I know that I'm not budging on my opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
I see that this person is not budging.
Mm,
Um, what are we even talking about then,
about,
you know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, because
So,
that's the thing. Like I feel like I'm learning things from you. Like when we were living together, I was learning things from you because you know how to mediate quite well. But I feel like I am not a diplomatic person. Like I don't like compromises. I'm like it's
we have heard certain very difficult to swallow things during our 3 year time in London. And many times when we hear these things, Gabs immediately just goes, you know what, Ben, I'm out. Okay, like fuck this shit. I'm not I'm not engaging in this conversation anymore. Bye. But I will be more like, oh, okay, yeah, tell me what's your point of view?
yeah, I
And
can't.
I'll
I'm
try to
like, if
share it
you're
with
doing
Gabs.
shit, I can't.
Yeah. And he goes, no, Ben, no, I'm good. Thank you very much. Let's just go to Malaysian Delhi and have dinner. Let's forget about it.
Yeah. You know,
Oh my goodness.
we all
But
have our cross to bear,
yeah. I actually feel that the Malaysian Delhi should have a table named after the two of us.
right?
Actually, the
I
three
mean,
of us. I think that they should name after
I
me,
think
you, and D.
literally we single-handedly like kept them afloat, I feel. Like
Yeah.
if it was just us coming to Malaysian Delhi, they would have survived, like because we
When-
left so much money there.
yeah. Honestly, like, I'm not even kidding. Like, Gats is not even kidding. We literally were there almost sometimes. So like, for myself, I found myself in the restaurant almost once
Yeah.
every week. No, sorry,
Which,
once
but
every day sometimes.
which all actually is quite strange why I came so many times because like if I come alone, they talk to me. They're like, "Oh, how you doing? How you doing?" If I come with Ben, something happens where I don't exist. They're
Is
like,
this
"Oh, Ben, my lovely, do you want a free cookie?" And I'm like, "I need to pay." And they're like, they don't see me. They can't smell the money in my pocket. Like,
I think it's because the people who own the place, they are Malaysians. So I think that
mm,
because Malaysia and Singapore, we used to be one country for a very short
yeah.
period of time. So I guess there is this sense of solidarity and familiarism when they see us, when they see
Yeah.
me rather.
Do you know that one time after like they ignored me, I went back home and I started looking up Malaysian phrases. So next time I would come in, like I could show off, but then I Googled and they were too difficult and I
You're
was like,
too
yeah, I
difficult.
can't.
Don't do
Yeah,
it,
I
guys.
can't.
At this point in time, if you throw a Malay phrase, I'm not sure how that would actually go down.
Yeah, you taught me that swear word,
Okay,
the
no, we don't. No, let's not. No. We're not gonna do that on on this very first episode. We're not doing that right now.
family friendly.
We were family friendly for now. We will see how it goes on. But the main point with that being said is like what we're basically saying that okay, the ideal yes is if we can have conversations or we can have discussions. That'd be
Right.
great, But ultimately, we as young people really need to start taking politics a bit more seriously. I feel because it does affect it. If not us, it affects the people that come after
And I
us.
feel like we need to like do less talking and more doing. Like,
Hmm.
because I feel like with social media, it's so easy to like criticize and like tweet that something's going wrong, but like, okay, so go fix it then, Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like organize a study group, go for politics, like do something then. Yeah, so I think we should really also, it's good to talk about it and to discuss things, but also I think it's important, like, not to forget to like put our money where our mouth is,
Yeah.
you know.
And to listen. I think it's important to always listen.
Yeah.
Because listening is different from hearing.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay? Hashtag
I
Ben.
don't know how yet, but I'm trying.
You get there soon enough. But I think we covered quite a fair bit today when it comes to being 20-something
Yeah,
and
it
what
was a
it
bit
means
deep.
to be in this day and age. We talked about, basically what that term means. We talked a bit about gender. We referenced to our dear friend, Harry Styles.
Ooh.
We talked about the importance of young people engaging in politics and how you really should be the change that you want to see, and you
You
should do
should be a
more.
primary school teacher
I
with the
should.
summarizing
I should
skills.
do that. I should do that.
Anyways, yeah,
Anyway,
it's great to be 20. It's great to be 30. You live and you die. Like, share, comment, subscribe, right? Is that what we're doing?
no, yeah, we're not rapping. Wait a minute. So, so on the end note of social media, you may follow us on our individual Instagram handles as shown below. And we would love, like what dear Gabs has said, to please like, comment, and subscribe, but also share it with other people. The pandemic is hard, and we want to hear from you. We want to engage in the conversation with you as much as it is between the two of us.
But let's stay connected, you know?
Let's stay connected. Okay? So on that note, congratulations also to our dear friend Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Congratulations. And on that very high note, take care, stay safe, and stay positive.
Dog days are over. See ya.
See ya.